Now let's consider some of the philosophy that underlies the physics of this time, dramatic changes in our understanding of the universe. We'll look at the figures of philosophy in this time who affected not only science, but the way we live in the modern world. René Descartes was a major figure in the history of ideas between the eras of Copernicus and Newton. He was pivotal in philosophy because he conjured up the idea, very important for modern science, of radical doubt, the idea of extreme skepticism in the face of trying to learn new things about the universe. He was also the co-founder with Fermat of major fields of mathematics. He was a pivotal figure in astronomy because he came up with the idea of the clockwork universe and also of the infinite universe. His early life, he moved around a lot. He did a law degree and then he joined the Dutch army as an engineer. He fought in the 30 Years' War in the Bavarian army and eventually moved to Paris, the center of ideas at the time. In November of 1619, he had a series of dreams which revealed to him that the mathematical approach was the only way to the truth. We can see an echo here of some of the ideas of the ancient Greeks. His basic premise was to find one certain truth and then apply logic relentlessly to it to deduce the rest of the science. He was also determined with an ambitious agenda to extend this method to philosophy more broadly than just applying to science. He's had a profound effect on the history of science and philosophy. He decided to leave Paris to return to the Netherlands in 1628. In Holland, at that time, was a very dynamic place, a wealthy country due to mercantile trade, and he stayed there almost to the end of his life and wrote almost all his major works there. The Netherlands was a newly independent, vibrant nation that gained independence from Spain and was entering a golden age based on naval power and a trading empire. Netherlands was an economic powerhouse and a very wealthy country with the world's first stock exchange. His signature work during this time was Discours de la Méthode in 1637, a discourse on the way of finding truth in the science. It's a foundational work where he asks the fundamental, the core question really, how do we know things are true? And he starts by destroying previous certainties, this extreme skepticism approach that he coined. He says, I cannot be sure what my senses are telling me. After all, I could be dreaming. I can't doubt one thing, that I doubt, that I do know how to think. Thus my thinking proves my existence. And this is where we get the famous aphorism from him, I think, therefore I am. We can see how he applied his logic to ask and potentially answer some very profound questions. Just follow the chain of reasoning here concerning God and external reality. He said, I am not perfect, but I have the idea of perfect reality in my head. This perfect being cannot be the same as me, as I am surely imperfect. This perfect being would not be perfect if it did not also exist. And so the perfect being, God, must exist. Then he said, I can clearly conceive of an external reality, things in the outside world that are not me. God, being perfect, would not deceive me. Therefore, the external world actually exists. But that external world is different from my mind. So there are two kinds of entities in the world. Minds that think, have free thought and free will, and then bodies that have size and shape and behave according to laws of physics, which he thought were deterministic. And these two realms of reality are independent and different from each other. Notice he's done all this just using logic without any experiments. The idea that he came up with is called Cartesian dualism, named after him. It's the dualism of mind and body, and it was hugely influential at the time and since. But it does raise a lot of questions, many of which are still unanswered, hundreds of years after he did his work. The human body, we think, is a kind of machine, a biological machine. But the brain is part of the machine, so how does the mind interact with the brain? Here's a drawing from one of his books that indicates his way of thinking about that. A modern version of Cartesian materialism, which was not actually a view held by Descartes, is the idea that there's a place in our brain with information that directly corresponds to our conscious experience, as if there's someone in our head watching a film of what we actually see, and that constitutes our mind. Cartesian science was written up by him in a major book called Principia Philosophiae. It set out his ideas of matter, space, motion. It described the clockwork universe, infinite in extent. He see no logical reason why it should be bounded. He thought the space of geometry is indistinguishable from the matter that fills that space, and so he supposed there cannot be a true vacuum, since even empty space must have extension, and so that is a property of matter. So he imagined space densely packed with material particles. Particles encountering nothing will move in a straight line, but they'll always encounter something since space is never empty, and the collisions between the particles will change their motion. Again, he did no experiments. This was pure philosophy. He also had a cosmological version of this. He imagined a universe with no edge and no center, a universe that's infinite. Collisions will make the paths of particles close to approximate circles, and he imagined a vortex structure, an infinity of vortices leading to an infinity of suns and solar systems. Now, this cosmology, which sounds fantastical actually, was not really correct or even influential. So not all of his ideas were equally effective or equally believed by others, but he profoundly influenced the course of science because he took a mathematical approach to physics and assumed that the mathematics exists independently of the physics and is described by the laws under which mindless things, like particles, move. He uses the math to describe what's really there. It's more than just a description. And that's the end of this topic.